Hi everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of December the 20th, 2021. We have a very active sky with a very intense week. So much is going on astrologically. We have a really powerful energy shift, the winter solstice, that sets the theme for the next 3 months. It closes the autumn and it opens the winter cycle, so that is very significant for our shorter term futures on one hand. And then there is the very long term future where we have the perfection of the Saturn and Uranus square that will definitely change our value systems basically forever. So that celestial conversation perfects itself on the 24th. What a Christmas we're going to have. And to top this up, Jupiter is in what's called the anaretic degree of the sign of Aquarius. And whenever a planet is in this position, regardless of the sign, it has its symbolism greatly amplified. It is in a lot of karmic pressure because this is the moment when that planet has to wrap up everything that it had to bring to the sign it transited until the next cycle, and it will take Jupiter 12 years to re-enter into this position where it is right now, into Aquarius basically. So that is the moment it has to add the finishing touches of whatever it was doing in the sign of Aquarius from the moment it entered. So last December, the December of 2020, up until this moment when it is ultimately going to leave this part of the sky, not to come back in 12 years, and basically that's a lot of time if we look at it that way. And Aquarius rules some very important elements to the existence of the human civilization, so to speak. Let me just give you the most modern example, the internet. So Jupiter being the planet of hope, the truth, of faith basically, and Aquarius being the sign of the future, so where we're going towards as a collective. This is very important because this will be the last moment when Jupiter unleashes its expansive qualities. It inspires us, it writes the future from within each and every single individual, each unique component of the human civilization, basically, of the human society, so the individual, and that's us, and that is another expression of the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is dual within its nature. The two glyphs of Aquarius, one glyph represents the human collective that should act as one, just like a beehive, for their own survival and to be true to their own authentic nature, that humans are social creatures after all. But the other glyph represents the primary component, the individual, who also has to be unique, free within the collective, freedom, equality, fraternity, the signature keywords for Aquarius. And these two, even apparently they might be contradictory to each other, have to live in perfect harmony. And when they do, that's when we have the greater example, the higher expression of Aquarius. And when they do not, when they live in dysfunction, when they live in conflict, then is when we have the lower expression of Aquarius, the rebel, the freedom fighter, who does everything in their power and in the detriment of their ingenuity, Aquarius, to live the way they want to. The modus vivendi is what is so important to Aquarius. Let me live and experience life the way I want to. Where my mind can take me is my limit. So where I'm going with this is that probably it is next week when Jupiter will unleash its full power within ourselves, that area of our souls, our lives, where this 29 degrees of Aquarius falls onto. That's where it's gonna have a lot of impact, preparing us one way or the other through its own unique Jupiterian ways for the future. May that be an infusion of optimism, hope for other people, maybe a reality check, maybe some kind of connection, communication, some important alliances happening in their lives right now. So everything that happens, I would say next week, it is going to be relevant for our futures, both individually and naturally collectively, because we are going to see this energetic Jupiter also play out one way or another on the world stage. So after this being said, let's see how this festive season may play out in our lives. So to begin the week on the 20th, we have a really lucky, fortunate alignment where Jupiter holds a sextile with the Sun. This is really good for motivation, staying optimistic, brightening up our own lives or the lives of our friends, family, social connections, our Aquarian expression, so to speak, because we're also one element in the network of souls who are interconnected, so our friends, family, acquaintances, etc. But of course, that which we can do to another, we can also do to the self. So cheering ourselves up, making sure we stay optimistic, hopeful, everything that is the milk and the honey of Aquarius, so to speak. This alignment also favors philosophical thinking. It also favors seeking deep answers which might lay in the cosmos out there. Only our minds to experiment, to weave the thread of endless possibilities and see where basically it takes us. See how our highest philosophies at this time can integrate into our inner truth. This is also a perfect aspect to dream as big and as high as you want, because Jupiter is the planet of good fortune, it is the planet of expansion, it is the planet also of divine justice, so we never know who our dreams might inspire, Aquarius. And of course, this can go the other way around where, they have this saying that the divine works through people. So maybe a person out there, it can sometimes even be a total stranger who will just pop up in your life and make a dream or an aspiration of yours come true. Or they will join your dream, your aspiration, your ideology to do something together. This is also good for students, for projects, for examination period. This is a really optimistic, harmonious and beautiful celestial conversation that makes any kind of higher aiming action, as in any action which has a moral, philosophical, aspirational, ideological component attached to it, be very successful, lucky, inspired, and ultimately the expression of Sagittarius, the arrow of desire, the arrow of wisdom, the arrow of knowledge aimed at the right bullseye, at the right target, will definitely hit it and something will happen. Then also at the very beginning of the week, we have Venus already retrograde, but still conjunct this Pluto. That will definitely persist all throughout the week. It will add this emotional intensity. It will add this sense of urgency. And naturally, it also means that this week is going to be another potential playground, a potential stage, especially determined in time, so a time frame where this Venus retrograde, whatever it has to mean for us personally, can just play out. So this means that we remain in this open period where the hand of fate can play its course, where things can happen almost as if by magic, as if by miracle, or where fate pulls us mercilessly where it needs us to be exactly at that moment. It is where important truths, maybe secrets, maybe certain things which we find it hard to look at come out, and we will have no choice but to confront with it. Or it could be our own changing, transforming emotional state that will be the subject of this Venus retrograde season for us personally. Is our relationship transforming? Are our closest friendships transforming? Is our relation to our work-life path, our goals in life that are transforming, something that has value to it or a very strong emotional significance is definitely transforming, or a massive truth is being highlighted? Either if it's something psychological, how we truly feel about something, or it can be something that has to do with practicality, with commitment, money, finances, or what exactly we're willing to sacrifice for earthly power, as in money. Another very powerful alignment at the beginning of the week is Mercury holding a trine, a supremely harmonious conversation with its higher octave Uranus. Now this is very important because Mercury is the planet of the mind. It is the practical thinking, sometimes even the lower thinking, where Uranus is the higher thinking. It is the highest expression of what our intelligence, our rational soul is capable of. Both of these planets are in earth signs, so this means a big level of practicality to our thoughts, our plans, our communications, our way of thinking, our mental management of resources, money, values, or everything that we need to achieve and accomplish in our lives materially in the now. So the most urgent preoccupations that we have. This can be a very powerful synchronistic energy. It can just connect us to who or what we need in the now to solve our problems. It can also be some kind of good news. It can also be a very pleasant surprise, an unexpected, delightful communication, or something that might lead us to the gain or a value, an honor, a recognition, something that advantages financially. It can also represent getting connected exactly to the professional, to the person, to the link in the chain type of person, where ultimately we will get what we need, what we will accomplish, what we desire, because Capricorn is, after all, the sign of manifestation. That's where things become serious, things become real, things become applicable, even in a very down-to-earth way. So this conversation of these two planets will get things done, at least communication, information-wise. At least we will see the plan, have the plan, or maybe the person who will offer us exactly what we need. This celestial conversation also gives us the chance to refine or perfect our longer term future plan, to align ourselves to that course of events that are the safest to get us where we need to get. And Uranus always has a certain kind of foresight or anticipating the future attached to it. It has a very quantum expression. So basically that is through our highest cognitive features, through the certain mathematical processes that take place in our brain, or which our consciousness can actually and actively use to create a valid and trustable future scenario. Uranus is responsible to that brain function, if that makes sense. So whenever these two planets are in harmony with each other, we are that extra specially smart or calculative or maybe intuitive perhaps, that we can just get a grip of where the future events are taking us. This is an excellent aspect for everyone who works, for example, in financial speculations, investment, cryptocurrencies, stock markets, because they can anticipate under this aspect where the trends are going. This can be helpful in very many ways, where we have to foresee things, or we have to create a functioning, viable scenario of how things may unfold in the close future. And also, this is a really easy energy because it is a trine, so we don't even have to place as much focus, energy, and attention on brainstorming and come on, let me get that bright idea, the light bulb moment, the eureka moment. This is a trine, so it comes on its own. It just basically ignites within us, and there we have either the truth or the right course of action or the communication, connection, whatever this may be, just pops up in our lives unexpectedly, and of course without us putting that much effort into it. And another element that I would like to mention, even though this is a little bit speculative from my behalf, Uranus is at 11 degrees and 11 minutes on the 20th of December, and Uranus is basically the planet responsible for synchronicity of any kind. So 1111 is pretty relevant in this sense. I would expect a lot of synchronicities or a lot of epiphanies to reach us around one day, especially when Uranus also holds this supremely harmonious trine with Mercury, because, this might represent that not only do we see the synchronicity, so not necessarily the numbers, whatever shape or form they may take, we might also very quickly decipher them, understand them. Uranus, our awareness, is quick to pick it up basically, but many times when we pick up synchronicities, sometimes we don't even have the faintest clue to what they may mean or what the universe wants to tell us. But this time we may very quickly get the idea, get the picture of what exactly the universe is guiding us to do, advising us, encouraging us, or what it is communicating with us. And also, just very, very recently on Sunday, so the 19th of December, we had the Gemini full moon, which had a very strong quincunx. That's also some kind of synchronicity. And to top that up, it was trined by Jupiter, and the Sun was conjunct the galactic center. So that effect of the full moon still lingers on full blast in the air on Monday. So that might also in itself greatly amplify the Uranian synchronicities and the guidance and everything that basically has to shock us and surprise us, the epiphany or sudden realization. So to move on next, on the 21st of December, we have the Sun changing signs, moving into the sign of Capricorn. So that means the Capricorn winter solstice. And like at every solstice, the celestial conversation of that day, what is happening in the sky when the Sun makes this transition, well, that is almost like an imprint, that is like a kind of forecast to what the main karmic theme is in the next 3 months. Because the solstice is the end of one cycle, nature cycles, and the beginning of the other one. So this is the end of autumn and the beginning of winter. And this will basically set the theme for the next 3 months for this winter. And what is that theme? It's very, very obvious, because the most powerful energy in the sky, besides all the other celestial conversations, is without a doubt the Uranus and Saturn square, which means the big picture, out with the old Saturn, with the old rules, with the old way of being, the old way we used to do things, the old structures that we had in our lives, the old value system even, the old judgments, the old worldviews, the old basically everything, and this also individually and collectively. So it's also true as a country, as an international community, as a species. This is what is going on with all of us in any way, shape or form, as collective, as individuals, as souls, as even physically in body. For example, how many people are very passionately guided to take care of their physical bodies around this time and in this basically larger karmic period. So where I'm going with this is, chances are this winter is gonna be a huge milestone for that massive world change. This is where the cracks in the old order that can no longer be repaired anymore, no matter what we do, will be extremely visible. We will all know that which will crumble and where it will start crumbling from. And of course, Uranus's expression, that which is the new, the next, that will take its place basically. So this will just reveal to us how the world change looks in the now and where this is potentially leading us. Because by now we might have known that this is a world change, etc., etc., but the potential outcome, the future, was in total mystery. It was totally invisible to most of us, to all of us in a proper way, to be totally honest with you. For the reason that the future is not linear and it is not singular, so a lot of different possibilities and threads of intention, for example, and actions and reactions have to weave together to create something stable, and even that something stable can have so very many sides to it, so it doesn't include a lot of intentions, a lot of elements. It actually includes them, it incorporates them, it is as multi-dimensional as it can get. But because that infinite complexity of what we call future might for the first time be just barely visible for us, just barely fathomable that there is a future and things are gonna be okay if we work hard enough, that is gonna be the big resolution of this winter. We will also be confronted with all the obstacles, all the difficulties, everything that we have to basically suffer out, everything that we have to survive, everything that threatens us. The least favorable expression of Uranus, that it's a storm. A storm cannot be controlled. Whoever is in its path, that's fate basically. But at the same time, it will also be visible how we will have the chances, opportunities, options to rebuild everything, the higher expression of Saturn, the future that is already rebuilt. Rebuilt on equality, fairness, liberty of all kinds, the higher expression of Aquarius, but also technology and also all the futurism that is unavoidable by now. So basically everything will have a home, so to speak, in the future. So we should not really exclude anything. We should just include its symbolism in a transformed way. And apart from this, regardless if we succeed in this time frame, so within the next 3 months, or if we just try our hardest, chances are with this Uranus and Saturn square, all of us are gonna be motivated. Some of us more intensely, more, let's say, a little bit savagely by life and circumstances, while others of us in a different way, let's say a more work, blood, sweat and tears invested into the change that we are creating. In any way, all of us will need to at least navigate towards the life change, the breakthrough that is the biggest theme in our lives right now. And this is where it gets a bit complicated, because some of us have already done what we could have done personally, and the rest, the other 50%, is life's terms. So even socially, economically, globally, morally, politically, in any way, shape or form, whatever is out there has to stabilize a little bit before we can enjoy the change that we have been working towards. So this is where Rome wasn't built in a day, that's absolutely true, but at least in this next 3 months period, we can also see how the foundations we have already laid are stable, there to stay, and the rest of the structure is definitely gonna follow. Also on this winter solstice, the moon opposes the Venus and Pluto conjunction. That is an energy where something is gonna be revealed to us. something about perhaps money, economy, where things are going financially speaking. And also, chances are it might not be the best of news, it might be concerning, maybe further restrictions, maybe further threat of having to close down the economy and trade and stuff like that. So it will definitely awaken people, it will definitely stir up some very, very strong emotions. So, for example, based on the Gemini full moon, we were already pretty much on the edge at the time of the full moon, and by the time we get to the 21st, the 22nd, and the moon collectively is the collective emotion, how people feel, the power of the people basically. So people are definitely going to be very, very agitated, unsettled on the 21st, on the day of the solstice, because things about finances, economies, and where things are going, financially speaking, both worldwide in their countries and in their lives, is not going to be the most stable and the most optimistic picture. So this will raise issues. And also, around that time, Saturn reaches out in a conversation of harmony, a sextile to Saturn. And this conversation is going to intensify as we head towards the end of the week. And this is a really beautiful alignment, because what this means is that putting in the energy, putting in the effort, putting in the time, and also the faith, the sheer belief into whatever we want to accomplish, that which we are working for towards Saturn. Mars is the action, Mars is the male principle, Mars is the energy that we invest, the effort it takes us to conjure up the energy and place it into manifestation, whatever that means for us personally. For example, taking the time to study and research something and obtaining the knowledge, that's very much Mars in Sagittarius. Learning something, researching something, being able to grasp something with your mind so it gives you power, Mars, and using that to accomplish that which you need to accomplish, Saturn. Saturn in Aquarius rewards intelligence, it rewards knowledge, it rewards intellectual effort. So this Mars can offer it exactly that in Sagittarius. It likes being in a fellow fire sign, so it's very comfortable in there. And at the same time, Sagittarius is expansive. Sagittarius is free and adventurous. So that goes very well with the energy of Mars. So this is where we have to allow our intelligence, our knowledge, our curiosity, our thirst for knowledge to guide us to the realization of our desires, goals, and dreams. Whatever effort we place around this time into knowing something, mastering something with our minds, or perhaps with the strength of our faith, Mars in Sagittarius, that can very quickly work in our favor almost instantly. So what this means for the solstice, that this period of the next 3 months is really going to favor work. It is really going to favor our sacrifices, our ambition, us dreaming big, believing in our dreams, but also taking action towards it. As perhaps little or as just symbolic as we can, but any action does help greatly. And this is also ultimately a very spiritual aspect as well. Saturn is the lord of karma, and Saturn's spirituality is the following. If you have faith, well then prove it and manifest it, because unless faith or unless the spirit can take any kind of shape and form in physical reality, even if it's just ritualistic, symbolic, even if it's just something mental, that is already enough for you to have the confirmation of your faith. So faith without action, faith without sacrifice, faith without the courage to actually make ourselves physical vessels for it is unfounded. But when we do the right things, when we truly embody our faith, well, it gets us to the stars basically. Mars in the sign of Sagittarius. So this is the right attitude to take towards everything this winter, this next 3 months. We have to believe it and take action, and also possess the intellectual faculties to basically hold the power, to be worthy, to have our faith be expressed and manifested before our eyes. And all of this is going to provide us with a massive breakthrough of what that Saturn and that Uranus have been doing in our lives, in our souls, individually, personally, in our life stories. And as hard as it is, because Saturn sextile Mars, it's not easy. It requires concentration, it requires determination not to give up, and a lot of faith, and also a lot of hope. But as a reward for that invested energy and the belief that we put into it, and for our courage, Mars, of course, it gets the job done. It gets us where we need to be. Perhaps not perfectly. Uranus is always full of surprises. Not maybe precisely as we planned and expected, but it can be that much better. Especially if we trust the divine Mars in Sagittarius. It always works to overcome our expectations, not to let us down. And another thing that this period of 3 months will do for us, Mars converses in harmony, in supreme harmony with Chiron in its Mars's home sign of Aries. So this is very, very strong and healing, because what this means is faith, knowledge, purity of spirit, us being aligned to that which we believe, not necessarily in a religious or spiritual way, but how we see life, how we perceive life, and how we are linked to the mystery of life. How us, through our own individual life stories, are also active components to the great divine plan, the subject of our faith playing out. And this realization that the universe actively manifests itself through us as well, in sometimes the most literal ways, very practical, palpable ways, this has a profound healing effect on us, because we can no longer perceive ourselves as worthless when a greater power than any human, the universe, the master of fate, the master of destiny itself, reflects down to us that it values us, our sacrifices, our work, and what we chose to do with our lives. That realization is almost like a miracle cure for any kind of self-esteem problem, even those problems which have nothing to do with spirituality. A person wounded you, your parents wounded you, someone belittled you, someone, a narcissist perhaps, like poisoned you, intoxicated you. Yet still, when the universe showers divine appreciation down upon you, it changes so much from deep within. That is when it kind of triggers our regeneration. We no longer can look at ourselves as just a wounded, broken person, because we are almost like compelled to look at ourselves, and perhaps even at our identity as a human being, through heaven's eyes, and that changes in the best way possible and heals even the deepest wounds within us instantly. And this conversation of Mars trine Chiron perfects itself on the 24th, exactly when this Saturn and Uranus square is at its peak moment. So, I spoke about this celestial conversation so much for months now, ever since the start of the year. This has been the main topic. This is definitely changing everything, our normality, our value systems, the rules and traditions and customs. What was normal before is just a memory now. We're still in the transition period. So the new, the next, what the new normal is, what the new stable is, what the new, basically even stability of society is going to be is not yet known because it's not created yet. We're exactly in the middle of destruction and creation. We're at that moment where the phoenix is just a pile of hot ash. It is yet to arise. So that's why things are so very complicated right now. And that's why this celestial conversation acts like basically an infusion of pure anxiety. It stresses us, it worries us, it agitates us, it causes minor misfortune. We drop this, our phones break, we bump into exactly the people who we don't want to see. People call us up needing help. They disturb us profoundly. They take away our intimacy. They take away our inner peace. They just agitate us. And if it's not people, then it's basically the universe will find its way to cause a lot of agitation when it wants to. So it is forcing us to exist outside our comfort zones. Even those people who don't have any reasons for this, even they are strongly affected by this energy. This is basically preparing us to be in a state of awareness and readiness to start heavily co-creating the future when the time is right, and that is very, very soon. And co-creating the future has a lot of physical elements to it. When an opportunity comes, to quickly seize it, grab it, make it your own, to be able to identify it, to know thyself, to know what you truly value, to know what repulses you, for example, to know what your five senses basically wish to experience in this earthly life. That is also very, very important, to know thyself in any aspect, in any way, shape, or in every, better said, in all of your complexity, but also in all of your simplicity as well. Uranus in Taurus. Some things are really not complicated. It's us who make them complicated. Some things are actually very, very, very simple. And as soon as we embrace the simplicity of life, everything changes for the better. So we will definitely see manifestations of the Saturn-Uranus square in our personal lives. Something unexpected, an inconvenience, or something that really, really stirs us up or puts salt in our wounds. But this isn't the emotional kind of energy where it's psychological wounds. No, it's our most urgent necessity. Like, we haven't really accomplished this and that, we're out of time, we have to pay this and that, we still need to make that massive relocation, we're not out of the woods just yet. So to our most urgent problems, which are preventing us from living as freely, as independently, as Uranianly as we are guided to right now. And also on Christmas Day, we have Jupiter in an erratic degree. As I said, this is when Jupiter wraps up its longer term job in the sign of Aquarius, which is our social connections, which is the future, which is our hopes and dreams, which is our higher cerebral functions, our humanitarianism, our solidarity, our respect for one another. So Aquarius is very, very complex in its nature. It represents so many sides of the human experience. So basically with Jupiter, long story short, whatever we need to do, create, undo, or anything that has a big role in our futures, but it needs a contribution. It needs at least a moral or mental or intellectual sustenance from us to be in existence. That is going to be revealed both collectively. For example, new, groundbreaking, never ever seen before technologies are gonna be revealed and they will surprise us how advanced we are technologically. This is a very likely expression of what it may mean collectively. And individually, this is where we just have to be aware, be in a state of awareness, and the universe will definitely reveal to us what exactly we need to do in order to get that future which kind of resonates with us. And the shadow expression of this, the biggest obstacles, that which we, like it or not, will still have to either accomplish, eliminate, or change within our lives to give way for the future that we desire, those things, events, people, or necessities will also be greatly highlighted. So the universe will tell us straight to our face, well, look, you really need to do this, even if it's hard, even if it seems impossible. You must not give up and just persist until your breakthrough comes, and then you can take things a new life basically from there. While for others, the universe will exactly say the opposite. You've done all what you can, now hold your horses and just relax a little bit, because the world still needs to catch up a little bit. So what's yours is promised, it's done, it's set in stone, but you need to be more patient because things still need to change profoundly in the world out there. Let me just give you an example. Legislation, Jupiter, work legislation will change that will give people of your profession or your category or whatever greater advantages that can highlight your great skills and talents which otherwise would be hidden, for example. So a lot of things externally can change to catalyze someone's future, for example, and we cannot foresee that clearly, but the universe can. So when it tells us to hold our horses because we already played our contribution, our roles in co-creating the future, then we can actually relax and allow things to come to us. And then the last celestial conversation that we're gonna have is definitely Mercury having a sextile with Neptune. This is also very inspirational. This is also metaphysical because Neptune is in the Scorpionic decan of Pisces and Mercury in Capricorn, the sign of manifestation. Mercury is thoughts, Mercury is plans, Mercury is our cerebral activities. So this is when our thoughts combined with a little bit of dream, fantasy, faith, spirituality, and optimism can very quickly manifest. This is also where Mercury is speech, yes? So mantras and even mudras, because those are symbolic, those are symbols, so those are very mercurial expressions of information, basically divine information. All of these might work like a charm. Everything that has to do with affirmations, the speech or the word manifesting or legally binding something, for example, that is a perfect and classical case when speech or information creates a certain kind of legally binding reality. So all of that is advantaged, all of that is favored. So those of you who are inclined to working with mantras, affirmations, guided meditations, listening to everything of this nature, this can be very, very useful at this time. So with this being said, all I can wish everyone is blessed and truly peaceful, delightful, magical winter celebrations, regardless if it's Yule or Christmas or any other form of it that you celebrate. And also we have the winter solstice. So let all of us pay close attention to the signs that the universe is showing us personally, what our roles are in the future, and let's try to act with wisdom and a lot of faith in our hearts, because the winter solstice is a very symbolic moment when we light candles or any other light symbolizing hope, symbolizing the promise of renewal, symbolizing that just as the coldness, the harshness of winter the standstill, being frozen, is a reality that, like it or not, we need to confront because it is in our lives in the now. So will the heat and prosperity, the hope, joyful lightheartedness of the summer be a guarantee that if we make it through the cold, if we make it through the hardship with dignity, with faith, with determination, not abandoning our spiritual expression, the light of the consciousness of Christ ultimately, then the heat of the summer, where the sun, the source of all life and the source of divine information, provides for all living beings unconditionally, can be that much sweeter. So at this winter solstice, my advice is for us to play our tributes, even through a very, very small symbolic gesture, like lighting a candle, to the embodiment of hope, so that this divine energy, this manifestation of the Holy Spirit, can stay with us, coexist with us, live within us, even physically, the symbol of physically lighting the candle and allowing the light to radiate in the darkness of our living spaces. And as we observe the physical expression of the light illuminating the room, we can commit ourselves that in this winter we allow us, the souls, the inner sun, the inner fire, to be the light of hope for those people who need it the most, giving freedom to the divine's mind, to the divine's power, to the sacred fire of the unity of the consciousness of all things as one, to basically use us and our lives, our words, our souls, every aspect of our beings to be a gateway for mercy and for hope for everyone who might need this, may they be in body or not. So this concludes the horoscope for this week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for all the support and for all the beautiful and loving comments I get from you guys. Again, I wish everyone blessed winter holidays, and may the power of hope lighten up your souls and of your families and loved ones and everyone who you care about. Thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.